Hello, and you're very welcome to the Turnout Podcast. It's season 2, episode 35. And well, the romance of the Cup fairly dissipated very quickly, and it became heartbreak in the RSC. Well, to talk us through tonight, we have Cowboy Gally.
Yo!
You obviously enjoyed yourself last week.
I said I'd bring it on. I said I was going to wear it anyway, and then I'm just bringing it on to cheer myself up.
Well, see, maybe the only high point we probably have tonight. And extratime.ie's Tom O'Connor. Tom, how are you?
Not so bad. I'm going to be the complete opposite to Gally, and I'm going to hide for the evening.
Well, look, Gally, I suppose we'll get this over and done with. I'll come to you first. Where did it all go wrong tonight?
I thought where it went out wrong everywhere, didn't it? It
started with the hat.
It started with the hat. It's in homage to Donald from last week when you mentioned the guy. I said, I'll wear it as a bit of a link in thinking we were going to win. And I said, no, I'm just wearing it now because it's just in bad form. So it'll give me something to think about. It was just poor. I mean, look, we can talk about tactics. We can talk about, players playing out of position, just not to go too far and slogging and the right things like that. But that's what squads are for. That's, Stevie's got a job there to put these players on the field. But at the same time, you have to put these players on the field. And they just didn't. I mean, the goal we scored is a cracking goal. But it's not even worth talking about. They're not just... It's just so poor that there is. I don't know what else to say. It's beyond disappointing. I mean, what makes matters worse, we've been beaten against UCD. You can see the 3 against UCD, and they've gone out and get absolutely hammered tonight by 3 United.
Yeah,
and it just goes to show that maybe all the hype we had earlier in the season, and look, that's our fault. It's not to get ourselves worked up about it, but maybe now it's just coming to the end of the season where we're in that position where we've been found out. Maybe. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's an indictment of the league as well. Maybe the league's nowhere near as good as we think it is either. If that's what we're up against, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, Waterford are very good. I mean, they're a decent side, but they say they're told, like the commentators said, they're told in the first division. It's not like they're running away with it or anything like that. And look, a cup football can bring up anything, but you can't go out and be that poor and expect to get anything from a football game, no matter who you're playing. For all Waterford's good points, we were poor. Look, I know we've injuries. I know we've Garth back in tonight as well. But I think Steph had said it, for an hour, Garth was solid. I mean, tackles in everywhere. We talk about individuals there with Tom and yourself, but it's a shocker. It really is a shocker. It's such a letdown. Like, I'd actually prefer it was in the league because you really wanted a cup. You really wanted this cup run, I think, to get everybody on the buzz again. And it's such an absolute kick in the teeth, especially after last week. This hat is definitely not cheering me up at all. But look, I'm not taking it off now because it hurts me. Just for anybody listening back, I have a cowboy hat on, just in case everybody's not seeing it. But Tom might see it, definitely Tom would. But I just thought there was nothing in it. There was just no. It's bad. Like we said at half time on our chat. We needed to change before players up from the top. There was just nothing happening. And we said Waterford were going to go for the throat in the second half, and they really did. They saw the chance there at the back. Even the goals, it's our mistake in midfield, and especially second. Look, the third goal's a cracker, an absolute screamer. But they could have had 4. They probably should have had 5, and that's how poor we were, which is absolutely shocking.
Tom, the good news is we're 6 minutes in, and Gally's gone through the whole game, so there's all to talk about.
Well, there's plenty of that game to talk about.
Tom, your thoughts on the game tonight?
Yeah, look. I mean, I'm not going to hammer anybody. I think, look, results and performances and stuff like that speak for themselves. There's going to be no benefit from either myself, yourself, or Gally giving out about a huge amount. I think that last week at the UCD Bowl, Dundalk were beaten 3-2 after going ahead. They were ahead for first 80 minutes, 2-1 got into 80 minutes and lost 3-2 to a team who had only previous to that won 3 games in the league all season. Mm-hmm. Stephen O'Donnell made 5 changes tonight, and they're after been beaten 3-2 by a team third in the second division, but third in the first division, third a league below. So, I mean, he hasn't, it's not as if we say, right, well, listen, he's looked at the team that went out last week and were beaten and said, right, guys, look, all 11 is back out again. Give it one more shot. Or not give it one more shot, but look, redeem yourselves or whatever. He kind of said, well, listen, no, I'm going with a new shape. I'm going with half a new team here again.
Yeah.
And still, that's another 3-2 defeat. So, look, again, I'm not going criticizing. I'm not qualified to criticize, but just sitting back, 3-2 defeats in successive weeks to teams who, let's call it a spade, you're expecting to beat them. Like, realistically, Dundalk's cup record has been outstanding over the last 10 years. Dundalk's record against UCD over, I think it was James Rogers that put up to 2011, the last time Dundalk had beat by UCD.
Yeah.
I mean, those two shock results in a row, and haven't made the changes. You know, like I say, having made 5 changes this week, haven't changed the whole shape. Now, look, I wasn't in Waterford. I know you guys weren't either. We were all watching it on the stream. That certain songs about rivers and all that kind of crack. I think streams and rivers and all sorts of stuff. That stream wasn't great for anybody tonight. But I mean, look, it looked like the shape was completely different to last week's shape, and it still wasn't the right shape. So I don't know what the answer is. I think hopefully blip over the last couple of weeks, and it can reset its course for the next couple of weeks, hopefully. And look, I mean, geez, at the end of the day, if we just sat down in February before the season kicked off and said Dundalk's going to be in Europe by the end of the season, Dundalk will have reached a European place. Well, I think we'd all have said, you know what, let's go with that, reset and go again. And to be still in there, in with the, you know, I think in a way Dundalk nearly overachieved at the start of the season. Now, I'm not going to say cracks are appearing or any of that crack, but you know, now we're maybe finding our baseline where we're not that consistency at the start. There was no consistency at the start of the season. Now we're back. So it's been, I won't say consistently bad, but not, you know, consistently not getting the good results for the next week while. So let's hope it rights itself before the end of the season. Yeah. And a European spot is achieved. Those players, look, let's call a spade a spade. Those players who lined out over the last 2 weeks, there's a few of those who will be in next season. We're not, you know, the likes of Bose brought in, was it 9 players in the off-season or in the summer transfer window, and they're turning around saying, actually, look, we're looking at going full-time next season. That's what we're looking at. The reality is that we're not in that position where we're looking at a lot of them being together for next season. I suppose, look, realistically, we're going to, you know, you have to tie down Nathan Shepherd and, you know, a few others in the squad, but I mean, you're currently of Shepherd, and you're looking at obviously tying down Hooban, and then, you know, people are going to have different arguments here, there, and everywhere for who else should be there next season. But there's a significant number of that squad which probably won't be there next season. So I suppose from now to the end of the season, we'll be looking at going, right, who should be putting their hand up for selection for next season, for getting a contract for next season. I know James Rogers mentioned who were automatically signed up for next season, but I mean, of those who aren't, I suppose the time is now to say, right, listen, let's for that makes sense.
Yeah, look, I suppose, Gally, Tom kind of touched on it there already, you know, so we get 5 changes tonight. We get Garth back in, which is probably the biggest surprise because, you know, he hasn't had any minutes. We've seen players being drip-fed in minutes before this to get them back up, but Garth's got thrown in there at the deep end, and it looked like a complete reshuffle of the team. So it's like Skip just said, tore up the rule book and said, right, let's go again. Let's put this team together for this match tonight. And, you know, you can't say he didn't try it, at least.
Yeah, and look, we were talking about it on the chat, and we were saying, you know, if you're going to do it, I suppose a cup game is, you know, and let's face it, a cup game where they probably expected to give a good account of themselves, a good, you know, as you know, even a little early scale. You know, before the game, they might have thought they might have an early scale from Waterford, but even at that, they probably thought they could handle it. I don't think anybody was prepared. And maybe that's ignorance on our part for how good Waterford were. I mean, they were excellent. I mean, they moved the ball so fast. But yeah, he's put out a team that, not that we were calling for, but he's put in Garth. Garth was probably due a game. Like, we were really scared from at the start. We were scared for Garth's health. We didn't know whether he was going to finish the game or what he was going to, but he was excellent. I mean, tackles that, you know, we've known and loved from Garth over the years, fantastic. He's played very good on the right. Look, you're trying different things to compete, but when you've got a team like Waterford who are so quick, like they were so fast, even their central midfielders were so quick, it's hard to deal with them. It's really hard. Like, you know, there was players there tonight that were probably really caught at the hop, and I'm sure the boys were as well. I know there was a bit of time waste from Waterford later on, but like, I'd say they were knackered from just being so quick and moving. Their pace was just frightening. That's one thing I couldn't get over. But yeah, look, we needed changes. We've been talking on the podcast for weeks about, you know, certain players leaving and, you know, where we're going to get the depth from, where we're going to get the squad from. But that's it. You're looking at it tonight, and that's what they were up against. And look, it just hasn't worked out. It just hasn't gone well. You know, Martin, Milling probably could have started. I would have been interested to see that. But look, I mean, I see
it was all set up though with you know, Martin going against his brother, and I think that was kind of all. That was all. I think
maybe he thought he was looking at himself.
I think that's why he probably got the nod.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of people it's annoying. It's not embarrassment. I mean, if you're beaten by, you know, we'd say 3D Dundalk was tonight. You know, I mean, Waterford are a decent side. I mean, albeit first division, but like, you know, I think we're going. I've seen comments there, and I was going to mention people calling for Stevie to be out the door. I think that's a bit. I know there was mad rumours during the week, whatever happened during the week. But no, I think we're a bit early on that kind of crack yet. I mean, you know, it's only one season in. It's you know, it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the crumbs of a squad. That's what's there. I mean, it's not, you know, another couple of weeks, another maybe, if you had to come in halfway through the season last year, we could be looking at a very different squad this season.
Yeah,
we got to judge it on next season. We just hope now that, you know, we don't go languishing now for the next couple of weeks. We don't, you know, you were talking about earlier about the break coming up. We probably don't want it now. We probably want to get straight back in again. But the worrying thing is now we go in this bit of a spiral of a run, and nothing comes together for the next couple of weeks, and we find ourselves out of the run for Europe. I don't think that'll happen, but that's always the worry. You know, that's we had a prediction at the start of the season, and someone said cup final. You'd obviously take second or third in the league every season. But yeah, look, it's disappointing to go. You're beaten by Rovers. It's just disappointing to go down and just really not forget. It looked closer on paper than it actually was. 3-2 flattered us, I think.
Well, look, we might as well get into some sort of chronological order, lads, for what happened tonight. Tom, I'll come to you first. You know, Paul Doyle back in his kind of natural position, and I think we call it is a goal of the season, that one.
I don't know if I'd necessarily call it goal of the season, to be fair, but it was an outrageous strike, to be fair, to be hitting strike from that distance.
Yeah, it's so unlucky, you know,
it's a serious strike. Yeah, and look, I kind of thought that was the break that Dundalk might have been searching for over the last couple of weeks. Like, you know, Dundalk, like, haven't really, I won't say they haven't caught a break, but obviously the results have gone against Dundalk for the last couple of weeks. You kind of thought, well, listen, things are going to start going Dundalk's way, and that could be it. And, you know, obviously didn't, you know, it didn't go that way. You know, that their equaliser, if you're going to tactically look at it or whatever, Greg Sloggett heads that out of the box, and there's 3 Dundalk. He was unchallenged. There was 3 Dundalk defenders all around, himself and 2 others standing in the box, and no Waterford player around them. So, I mean, I don't know if there was maybe a more dominant player in there saying, listen, you have time, listen, there's nobody around you, or even if you're going to head it, don't head it right back into the danger area. You know, even knock it out for a corner and say, right, listen, let's regroup and play it safe. And, you know, I'm not going to, like I say, I'm not going to have a go at anybody, I'm not going to anything, but that Dundalk have defended better than that this season in general up until this point. Like, and look, a serious strike from Griffin to finish it, but there was nobody even putting him under pressure on the edge of the box. So you had 3 Dundalk players unchallenged. Then it goes to Griffin on the edge of the box. Yes, he catches it absolutely sweetly, but he's in a position whereby there's nobody coming out to pressurise him. And it's the same with when Dara Power's shot to put Waterford ahead. The ball went to the back post. Killian Cantwell, who's been very strong, he's been very strong for Waterford in the air. I think he was injured at the start of the season, and as he's come back, he's grown into the team. Look, I mean, we've all seen Killian Cantwell over the years. He's an established player. He's a great signing for them. And look, you saw him tonight. Like, he showed his experience, but he went up for the ball with Garth. And first thing, Brian looked right. You could see him on the replay. He looked straight to the linesman, so it looks like he's looking for a foul. But even at that, there was nobody. There was 2 Waterford players there with Brian at the back post. There was nobody when the ball fell to Dara Power, there was nobody putting him under pressure. So it was another a bad goal to concede. And then look, the third goal, look, Gally said it's an absolute cracker. So, you can kind of, I won't say forgive that one, but he could try that again, and that could fly, wherever. So I think it's worth looking at the first and second goals and saying, how did they happen? And they happened because there was no pressure on either player. The pressure was there on Killian Cantwell at the back post, but when it dropped, then Dara Power had nobody there, and when the shot came out from Griffin's first shot, then as well, yes, the ball was put into the box, but when Sloggett headed it out, there was nobody putting pressure again. I think it was Alfie Lewis jumped out, but there was no real. So it kind of lacks defending. It was the same as we saw last week at UCD, where Tommy Lonergan stepped inside a couple of players. There was loose tackles. There was nobody willing to just take a man out of it or willing to throw themselves in front of it. There's no desperate defending or that kind of way. So it'd be nice to see that over the next couple of weeks, even though maybe there's no title to be won, there's no silverware, unfortunately, to be won, but still, you come back to, I want to see players putting their hands up for selection for next season and saying, look, Stephen, like you said there, Gally, look, any talk of removing Stephen O'Donnell is, it's very, very, very premature. I mean, I remember going back, I think it was it 17, 18, when fans were calling for, Shamrock Rovers fans were calling for Stephen Bradley to go. And I mean, he probably wasn't as far along. He probably didn't have a solid base as Stephen O'Donnell has to work off. So, I mean, I would be agreeing completely. I see a comment there from Frank Carlin as well. Like, I'd be agreeing completely with that. Give him time, allow him to gel his own team together and move forward from there. Put down a good foundation from now and move on. Like,
yeah, Tom, with the first with the equaliser, should I say? Would you have any criticism over Shepherd on that? Do you think he had time maybe to see, or did it come through some players? It definitely hit the ground just before it got to Shepherd, and I think it probably sped up quickly off a damp surface. It seemed to be, he seemed to be annoyed at himself for not being able to get down to the corner. How did you see it?
Funny, I watched his reaction there, and he did. I don't know whether he thumped the ground in frustration or whether but you could see that frustration. I would be looking from and look, myself and yourself are both, have dabbled in the goalkeeping fraternity at a much lower level. But from my point of view, that would be a frustration for me that the defence didn't go out and cut him down properly. I would be like, it did bounce, but it looked like it skipped right into the corner. And look, I'm not a small guy, but I still would have trouble getting right, when it's hit that well into the corner. So in that case, I would say no. I personally believe that the fact that it was hit so cleanly, so crisply, it did skid into the corner, but he's frustrated because his defence are not closing him down. There's a ball that's in the air. He can't cope for it, so Sloggett heads it out. But there was no communication then to say, right, charge out at Shane Griffin and close him down, or even to take control and to nod that ball back.
Yeah.
Either, like I say, come back, knock it out of play or knock it out of the danger zone. But that frustration that you had 2 defensive mistakes there, I wouldn't necessarily put it down to a goalkeeping mistake.
Yeah. Gally, then, Tom's already talked about the second goal then. It's a sucker blow time-wise as well. You're 3 minutes to the break. at that stage you'd be thinking, right, we'll take 1-1, we'll go in the break, we'll regroup at half time, because we weren't overly in the game. I think, to be fair to Waterford, they had their chances. You could see the likes of Junior kind of coming into the game a lot more. They were carrying the ball extremely well. But like Tom said, it's a ball into the back post. Garth is under pressure, but when the ball bounces back, Alfie Lewis seems to be the wrong side of the man to get a challenge in, and we're static, and he's, it's not an easy finish by Dara Paro, but he finished it with some aplomb.
I think he got a touch as well. Did he have time to take a touch? He didn't have the first time either, which is probably even worse. But yeah, look, it's the free kick. It's something, obviously, it's a simple routine. It's off the training, but I always get annoyed when you see centre halves going up at the back post, big centre halves, and getting out jumped, and then the ball just, like, you knew what was coming. You could see from the moment it left your man's foot. I can't remember who took the free kick, but you could see what was coming. It was obviously going to go to the back post and be sent right back into the penalty area. And it's not that it's unforgivable, but it's simple stuff. I mean, like, Jesus, like, if I've on the 14th game tomorrow in the cup, if they'd done that tomorrow, I'd be getting it at half time. Like, it's simple stuff, and it's at that kind of level. Look, Tom mentioned the third goal. There's nothing you can do about that. But second goals like that, simple mistakes. Even the first goal, close the player down, get to the ball first. I think there's a bit of a slip. I don't know if is it Alfie Lewis that maybe slips in the box as well. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, there is time there. I mean, it's a cracking finish. The ball probably can't go anywhere else but where he's kicked it. But I mean, you've got to close him down. I mean, like, it's mark the blue jersey. It's very simple. I mean, the ball travels so far. I mean, it's not like there's massive pace on it. It's a routine that they've taken. Jeez, it's FIFA 92, like, them kind of games. It's old school, like, I mean, but it's a simple ball. Like, Garrett's, it's unlike, who out jumps Brian Garrett. It's very rare. But because he's got momentum on him and he's running towards it, he's always going to have that little bit extra. But I'd like this. I wasn't actually paying attention to the foul. It was Tom brought it up there, the potential foul on pushing the back. I didn't actually pay attention to that bit. It was more the goal. But it's a poor goal to concede. I mean, anything bouncing in around the 6 box at any level of football is generally a poor goal. And yeah, like you said, just before half time, I kind of said at half time as well. I texted you and said, did we need that change up top very quickly? Like you had mentioned it, because draw in the brain. Waterford, we're going to go for it there. This right, we can get at them very easily here. We can, get Garland was going to come under pressure after an hour, 65 minutes with just not match fitness. So they knew they could get at them. That was always the worry. And second half, they probably should hit them. Waterford probably should go forward. I'd be disappointed they didn't score more. Sheila's got to play really well, but yeah, it's what we've been giving away this season. Some of the goals, like, it's just one of them. Look, we can talk about the defence all night. We've done nothing. We can build podcasts off talking about the defenders and who used to play there, blah blah blah. But it's things like that. Like, if Kieran Mulvaney, if the under 19s go out and do that over the weekend, they get it in the next from that as well. It's silly stuff. But look, that's just the way it's been with the goals we concede in the games we've had. It's silly season up there at the minute, and when your luck's against you, it's against you. You can't really put it down to anything else.
Tom, we go in half time 2-1 down, and like I just said there to Gally, we didn't overly create enough to justify ourselves in the game. We're surprised that there wasn't changes at half time. We're surprised he waited for the hour mark to make it, or do you think could he have had a bit of a go at the lads and had a shake up for the start of the second half, do you think?
Well, I mentioned last week, I was commentating up at the UCD Bowl, and I asked Stephen O'Donnell after the game, I said, look, you made the triple substitution, what was it, 6 or 7 minutes into the second half, and it didn't, it just didn't end up working. So I don't know whether he had that in his head and he thought, what, I actually made 3 subs fairly quickly last week, and it had an initial burst, but it died off after that. So maybe I'm better off just watching how the pattern goes and then, then go from there. I mean, look, he brought on Ryan O'Kane, scored like literally from the run he made running onto the pitch. He nearly scored when that ball came through. For me, I don't know. I know he changed the shape and tried to. I don't know. He obviously had his reasons for changing the shape, but Stephen Bradley, and I know this was mentioned in a couple of podcasts during the week, Stephen Bradley, whereas he had started the season, obviously in goal scoring form, but he had started out wide right and kept cutting in on his left foot. I think he scored 4 goals in his first maybe 5 games. I don't know, can't remember the exact, and then he hasn't scored in ages, and he has drifted inside. But what we have seen, look, we saw him as a goal scoring threat against Wexford. Ryan O'Kane, his pace is frightening.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, Gally, that Waterford side are very, very mobile.
Yeah.
You have runners throughout the midfield. The number 9 up front, the guy came in at during the mid-season break. He's not as pacey, but again, from what you can see on a broken street, but he keeps moving. He doesn't. He's how should we say it, like kind of an old-fashioned number 9. Like Brian Garland was able to, kind of, I won't say rough and tumble, but I mean, the two of them seemed to be fairly well matched. But there wasn't, he wasn't static, or he wasn't standing there going, right, listen, give me the ball. I'm standing on the edge of the 6-yard box. There was a movement around him. Waterford were moving around. We didn't have that when Bradley was very narrow and deep. Benson, I mean, look, he's been in and out of the side recently with injury and stuff like that. So we didn't have that dynamism, I suppose, for want of a better word, that we always have. And I keep harking back, and we all probably keep looking back at rose-tinted glasses. But when you look at the I suppose the 4 main centre midfielders we had back in 2015, 2016, you'd Shields, O'Donnell, you'd Finn, and you'd Benson. And look, it's the same as when you had Patrick McElhenney playing as a 10 or an 8 as well. Sometimes you had ball carrying ability there, and you had lads who were, you had a real strength there. And then you add on to the wings. You look at the likes of Daryl Horgan on the wing. You had John Mountney on the wing. You had Darren Meenan also as a, the amount of assists he had back then was phenomenal. Whereas now that element of creativity, I know you have injuries and stuff like that, but I mean, if you have somebody who's a creative player, I probably would tend to give him more game time. And like I said, as soon as O'Kane came on, as soon as O'Donnell brought on O'Kane, he was a threat. He was lively. So when you have, when you're up against a team that have that pace and mobility around them, that's probably where I would have been looking at it, going, right, let's bring that sense into it, because you had Greg Sloggett, who's a very capable player. Look, we've seen him develop. He started his footballing career obviously at UCD, then went to Derry, and he's even a different player, I suppose, at Dundalk now than he was when he first signed. For me, he's had a really strong season, but he's not a right winger. Yeah. In the same way as John Mountney's not a left wing back. So if we play players to our strengths and allow the more creative players into their more natural positions, I can't remember who was saying it was like Football Manager, where you're trying to play the best. I think it was James Rogers mentioned it. It was like Football Manager, you were trying to play your best players all the time. And look, it looked a little bit like that. Like, again, we're not privy to what's going on in terms of injuries or carrying knocks, or Stephen O'Donnell referenced, speaking about that triple substitution last week, he referenced the fact that he felt a kind of a sense of energy was, that the Dundalk needed a boost of energy or whatever. But I would be giving the players who have that energy in their natural positions, and I'd be looking, that's where I would have been looking at. So in a long-winded answer to your question about the half-time, I wouldn't have necessarily, I'd have been maybe looking at bringing that dynamism in either from the start or else when he did, and bringing O'Kane on, injected that pace, which ultimately led to nothing. But for me, that was the right call.
Yeah, Gally, look, I actually agree with Tom there on that, because I'm just thinking we made those changes. You actually had the Bradley shot just wide. Then O'Kane comes on with a deflected shot just before that. But typical of our luck at the moment, just as we're coming back in the game, Felix Patterson goes down the other end and scores an absolute worldie. And that's just typical of the way our season is going at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Tom makes, like, it's a great point. Like, I mean, obviously, when you're bringing on someone like Ryan O'Kane in particular, I know, look, there's no bigger fan of this podcast of me than Ryan O'Kane, but you can almost send him out and just send him out. You don't, like, a player like that doesn't need a lot of instruction, so you're obviously expecting something from him. But then, as you say, the luck then just goes against you. I think it's a mistake. I think it's a pass from Benson. I think it might be to Alfie Lewis. I can't remember. And it's a bad pass. I mean, it's a blind pass almost. And the guy just rocks it and takes it off. I can't remember the player's name. But the goal itself, like, you could argue McCarry maybe doesn't get close enough for the distance from the box. That's probably been too harsh because you're not expecting him to turn it in his right and absolutely leather it in the top corner. But I mean, there's not a lot you can do about it. But when you look at most goals that are scored, regardless of what level they are, worldies, there's a mistake somewhere along the line from the other team. But we've had it's almost a backward pass. I don't even know why he's done it that way. Like, I mean, if he goes out to the left, Kane's probably standing. So it's a strange pass even to do that close around the centre circle with a player coming on him as well. But look, you make your own luck, and that kind of goal, like you said, if he goes down there and does that 10 times, they end up in the street. I mean, 9 times out of 10, and ends up. But that's just that he's absolutely pinged us, and it's something Keith Ward. You'd expect it off Keith Ward or something like that. But look, it's something. That's something you don't need. I mean, I know that sounds strange. It's a goal, but after the goal you've just conceded, to then turn around and say, right, well, we'll get away with them goals. It's mistakes. But then to concede an absolute screamer, like, where do you go from there? They just had it every which way tonight against them, haven't it? It's just one of those nights from Dundalk. I mean, look, I'm unfortunate with too many one of those nights, haven't we?
Yeah, and that's it, unfortunately. Tom, I suppose after the goal, then he's, Skip has to be a bit reactive. He gets McMillan on, gets Wardy on, tries to throw the kitchen sink at it at that stage, and we're overhitting some crosses. I think at that stage you could see Junior kind of stretching everybody else. Gally, I said it to you during the game. I was like, my good God, like you'd love to have Junior in your team, because Tom, he just draws cards out of the opposition players. He dangles the ball so close that you think you can get it, and next minute you've chopped him down, and he's killed a bit of time. Here's another yellow card. There was 3 yellow cards in a row. Sobowale is suddenly on the ball, driving it forward in the middle of the park. You said Patterson, they saw the opportunity, I suppose, Tom, to stretch that game out then at that stage, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking back at, kind of obviously knowing that was coming on, I was making a few notes. And if you look, like, when Dundalk were 1-0 up, correct me if I'm wrong here, but when Dundalk were 1-0 up, Bradley had the 1-on-1 that he miscontrolled. That could have been 2-0 Dundalk.
Correct.
Right. So 2-0 Dundalk happens. And I won't say, you're definitely going to win, because obviously we've spoken a good bit there about us been in a tough run of form and stuff. But I mean, 2-0 up against a first division team, you're kind of going, right, listen, surely there'll be enough in it to carry Dundalk to victory. But then you look around, flip it around to the far side. When they go 3-1 up, the next best chance they have is 4-1. Only Shepherd makes a great 1-on-1 save.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, for a game that could have been, it could have been 2-0 Dundalk. It could have finished that way. It could have also finished 4-1 to Waterford, and you couldn't argue with that. As it stands, 3-2 is probably, I wouldn't say it's a happy medium, because there's none of us happy, but 3-2 Dundalk just sits, or 3-2 to Waterford just sits in the middle there. And look, there's a few, a couple of good points there coming through. Daniel Sexton and Frank Carlin are coming in there. Like Daniel Sexton makes a great point there in terms of Hoban and Kelly.
Yeah.
Like, Dundalk have relied on Hoban's goals for the last couple of years. He's going to go down as Dundalk's record goal scorer fairly soon, hopefully. And yet, he's missed the last number of matches. And Dundalk, look, Dundalk have scored 4 goals in the last 2 games. So, it sounds weird to say that they've been blunt. But if you take today's game, like, the first goal was from Doyle, was a speculative strike that, was in the end kind of fortunate to go in, and the next goal was in the last minute, or 90+3. So, I mean, and Paul Martin, yes, he had a few high balls delayed, a few awkward, but nothing massive.
Yeah.
He wasn't pulling off a string of saves to keep them in the game. Same as Keane Moore last week. UCD bottom of the first division. And he wasn't been pummeled shot after shot after shot. There wasn't a huge amount. So, I mean, Hoban gives you a goal scoring threat that we haven't had. Kelly gives you a goal scoring threat that we haven't had. But if you're looking around teams that are challenging from Europe, the players who are coming in should also be providing that goal scoring threat. Like, Stephen Bradley was providing the goal scoring threat. Wasn't really present there tonight. You look at the likes of Derry, how they've strengthened over the window. Ryan Graydon,
Yeah.
And they took actually Keane Kavanagh off Waterford. Like Ryan Graydon was taken straight from the first division, put in. I'm not sure, I'm open to correction on it, but I think he made his debut in Europe for Derry, if I'm not mistaken. You know, they were trusting the quality, and he has added to it. You look at Shamrock Rovers, I mean, their squad is has attacking threat everywhere. Yes, technically they don't have a massive goal scorer number 9 like Rory Gaffney is. It can be unplayable at times, but he's not banging in 15, 20 goals a season. You look at Pats, you look at their top end. They brought in Serge Atakai. I mean, his pace is frightening. He's given them another dimension. You know, or mid-season when we had that, we brought in Runar Haga. He hasn't given that threat. We haven't had for me, and I'm open I'm open for anybody to come across or to cut across. But for me, I don't think we've replaced the goal scoring threat of Kelly and Hubin, and especially when, like I say, when Stephen Bradley may not be as threatening as he was early in the season, when we kind of worked out, our teams worked out that he's going to cut in off the right onto his left foot. We haven't had that. We haven't brought in a surprise. Like our mid-season signings were maybe more defensive recruits, the likes of Robbie McCourt. Like I say, Bruno Haga hasn't shown enough goal scoring threat for me, and obviously brought in Alfie Lewis as well. So they're good squad players, but they're not replacing that goal scoring threat. And like that's kind of like what is it Frank Carlin has said there, and what Daniel Saxon has said there as well. I just have to kind of agree with him on that.
Tom, just you mentioned there. Would you, because it's a cup game tonight, obviously Garth has come in. Would you have given Runner a game on the right? Would you have, like to really see what he was like against that opposition, or was it just more of a, get somebody in with the experience of Sligo to play that role? Like for me, obviously, look at hindsight's great after doing the podcast after defeat, but somebody like Runner might just need that start in a game against decent opposition, or maybe they just underestimated the opposition. I don't know.
Well, look, I suppose, and harking back to 2016 season, where with John Mountney, who we know is, when John Mountney played on the right wing, Stephen Kenny was near. I won't say he was open about it, but it was evident that Mountney was playing as a defensive winger to stop the attacking threat on the left wing. And if you look at who Waterford had on the left wing tonight, it was Phoenix Patterson. So if you're putting, I suppose that for me was the logic in putting Greg Slog there to try and nullify Phoenix Patterson's attacking prowess. But yeah, I mean, the option would have been there to put Hauge there and to just say, you know what, we'll fight fire with fire. Possibly, and at least then you're saying, we know at this stage, like I don't know off the top of my head how many times I couldn't tell you, put an exact figure, how many times he has appeared.
Yeah.
But by the same token, I couldn't put a show reel together of what he's done when he's there. So would it have been an ideal opportunity to say, look, here's 90 minutes. You have 90 minutes. I trust you at 90 minutes. Show me why you're worth the place to start next week.
Yeah.
Possibly. Mm-hmm. But I can understand why he didn't do it, as in Sloggett playing the Mountney role from 2016.
Gally, I suppose we'll come to the inevitable questions. Look, I don't think anyone here, and we haven't at any stage anyway, I suppose, called for Skip's head or anything like that. He's in a tough position. If we take our last 6 games, including tonight, we've the 3-0 defeat to Rovers, 3-2 extra time victory over Wexford. It wasn't given, but it was a 3-0 defeat to Sligo. We went through the 90 minutes. We done a podcast. It did happen.
We have proof it happened.
3-2 defeat at UCD, and now another 3-2 defeat. It's a tough run, and it's probably one of the toughest tests that Stephen has come up against in management. I don't remember a time when he was at Pats where they were in this current kind of scenario that they need to find an ugly way to win. I think we keep saying that we'll take it every week, a 1-0 scrappy win. That's just what we need, just to change our confidence. We were hoping, maybe the Wexford one was going to be it. Maybe the 0-0 draw, even against Shells, get that clean sheet going again, and we build on it. if I just look at some of the stats, we've conceded 14 goals, only scored 7 in the past. Well, from a defence, it was one of the tightest. I know Tom kind of mentioned it earlier as well. It's, for Skip looking at this, you've got to, there's a lot of negatives that could easily impact the team. And I wonder if that's part of what's kind of seeping in on people. We now, do we start to believe that maybe we are a soft touch? Maybe if we do concede one, we could easily concede another. We've lost that kind of winning mentality. What does Skip do? Like, we've seen formations change. We've seen personnel change. Like, literally, he's trying everything on this. We now have a gap for an international window. You were kind of saying, is it going to be a good or a bad time? There's plenty for him to work on. If you just go based on the stats that are there, it's going to be a real test for him, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you mentioned, what was there at the season, the goals that we didn't concede and stuff. I actually remember sitting here and saying we didn't have a lot of pace. Even with Conley, I thought they're vulnerable here, but it turned out that the two experienced centre halves that we had, the mental side of it was there. It was all there, and when something, it's not so much. Like, definitely wasn't. It's not the pace we're missing off Conley. It's nothing like that. It's just that mental strength. And when you've got someone like Bone, for me, he can play centre half, but he's not a centre half. He reminds you of Paddy Barrett. When Paddy Barrett came along, he could play centre half, but he didn't look like he was just a natural centre half. He's definitely a defensive player, but you just still don't know where to put him. And then you've got Garland. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's a bit too much football in him, if that makes sense. And you've got someone like Gareth coming into play tonight, hasn't played a lot, so obviously he would have the mental aspect of it. But then when you haven't played all season, it's going to be tough coming in the game like that. And I keep saying it. I wasn't expecting Waterford to be as good as they were, but it's strange how it flip flops from those two players being solid that we didn't think was going to be solid. We've had comments here coming in that we didn't think these two were going to work. Conley and Boyle didn't even want to work at the start of the season. And it just goes to show that a simple, and it's only one player. I mean, I know all the injuries we've had, but we're not going to sit here and say that they're not good enough. The boys that have come in and replaced them, but just seeing that little bit of mental frailty. And as the weeks go on, and maybe it's just bad timing. It could all just be bad timing with the results, and maybe just bad coincidence. But it definitely seeps in. It has to seep in. Like somebody like Stephen O'Donnell, who would have learned off the mental aspects of Stephen Kenny, Vinnie Pear through the years, the strength and conditioning coaches, he would have that in him to get these boys on side and ready to go. But I just don't know if it's just bad timing when the teams are coming in and picking us apart, and these lads having a blip at the back. I think it's just a culmination of the last couple of weeks have just been an absolute disaster for us. And maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong in saying that the break's probably bad. Maybe a break is the best thing. Probably when you think about it and listen to Tom.
With the other side of it.
Yeah, maybe a break is the best thing. Look, we wouldn't be giving them a day off, but I mean, I maybe that's just what they need. Maybe just a circuit breaker in the middle. And yeah, it's just funny how it turned. It's funny when you mentioned it there how I almost slated Mark Conley at the start of the season. Because in pre-season, I thought these boys are not going to work. These are too slow. And then, what would you give them? It's just one of them. And look, it must prey on their mind. It has to. We don't probably help talking about it all the time. Not that I highly doubt they're listening, but it's got to seep in, and it's got to be a worry when they go out of the field, especially when you look at the numbers. You just threw out a stat there of goals conceded. I mean, it's 3 goals. It's crazy. It's something that we're not used to. Well, maybe last season we were a bit used to, but even last season we only 1-0, 2-0. It just seems to be something that's just. And look, I mentioned earlier, talking about slogging out of the right. Doyle goes off as well, injured. When you miss that type of player in the centre of the park, you've got to, you have that concrete solid base in the middle of the park when you don't have it at the back. So that's what they're there for, them holding midfielders. Look, it's just a strange time. I think I probably take back what I said that they don't need the break. They probably do actually maybe need a break now, because they're set with the squad now. I don't, it's not like we can talk about the loans going out and Hanratty and Masahoon and stuff. Look, that's done and dusted now. There's not a lot you can do with that. You got to work with what you have. But maybe a change of formation. We don't have enough to play 3 centre halves, but it could be the answer to the problems. Just play the 2 lads and the 2 wing backs. But look, I'm no expert on it. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely seeped in. It's got to be like their training must be an absolute. They must be dreading, going in to see what he's going to say to them. I saw last week, if you believe the rumours last week, I think they got hiding last week off him. But I don't know what Steve. Just go back to the original. What Stephen O'Donnell does, you just have to keep going. I mean, there's no quick fix on this. You got to put them in. It's not like you have like for like in all positions. You don't.
No.
Up top, I think we're more than good enough right across the board, no matter who comes in. It's just getting that solid base from the spine of the team to work properly. But I don't know. You just got to keep going. I mean, there's not a lot you can do. There isn't. I mean, it sounds like I'm waffling now, but I'm trying to think of the Garth Brooks quote here to kill everything. No, I don't know. Like Tom would have been in around that more. Even as coaching there, even on the 14 team, it's not the same. But I've changed. But for instance, not to even compare what I do at the Stephen O'Donnell, but I've changed my formations for my players over the last 1 week. The goals they concede is a lot less than what they used to. But it's all right saying that in local football. But I don't know what you say to them as a group, apart from just keep ploughing at it. There's no what do you do? The squad set. The teams now know what you're like. So I don't really know. I don't really know where he goes from here. I mean, you just got to keep plugging away. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like, he's the man for the job. He's still the man for the job, in my opinion. There's no. I wouldn't be looking that far down the line, as Tom was saying. I think that's crazy stuff.
Tom, what do you think there? They say it's a real test for Skip. Is it a mental block on this team now? Is it, like Gally said, is it something just it has to come out on the on the football pitch during the 90 minutes that'll change it? He can do all the work he wants in training and stuff like that, but if they can just turn it around on the pitch, it might change the whole mentality of the team. You think that could be the issue?
Funny, I'm going to just pick on a wee point there that Gally made, and I think it's very. I think he made a good point. Wetting, on Wetting or otherwise, I think he probably hit the nail on the head.
I'll have to write this down. Hold on.
Yes, Tom.
Basically, I think you're right. Where you nearly said like it's a perfect storm, whereby we've got to remember that Dundalk are still unbeaten at home all season.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And in the middle of this run, yes, there was the extra time win at Wexford. That was away from home. There was the game at Tallaght Stadium, away from home. Yeah, look, the game at Shelbourne, obviously, and the defeat in Sligo. Yeah. Well, go back a second. The defeat at Sligo, which became a win, that's fine. But again, that was another defeat away from home at UCD, like you say, away from home. Tonight, away from home. So I mean, there's 4-5 defeats away from home. Or I would say the Wexford obviously wasn't a defeat, and the Sligo one, the way it turned out, wasn't a defeat. But I mean, there's only been one home game there. No goals conceded against Shelbourne. Yes, it probably wasn't a classic, but you weren't losing the game. So you're still. I think personally, like you said, the international break now, reset, but get a home game.
Yeah.
Get a win under the belt at home. Still, like I say, we still haven't lost at home. So if you get that home win, then you're going right. We have reset this. Let's start this. Let's start this run again. So we don't. You kind of put that run behind you. Like talking to James last week in the UCD Bowl, and we're saying, Dundalk have only had 3 away wins all season. In the league, the Brandywell game, the Brandywell and Finn Harps within the same weekend, and then I can't remember the third one's going to be head. But the away form has been an issue all season, and it's just happened now that they're in the middle of between cup fixtures and the way the league has fallen, that there's been a lot of away games. So for me, that's what you're talking about. For me, that get the breakout, hit the reset, get a home victory, and then you could be back on track, because that for me is the issue. The home form is fantastic. The away form is the issue. Why? I have absolutely no idea. But I'm not going to go into it tactically and all that. There's people very much more qualified than me to go into all the different tactics and all that. But for me, get a home win, reset, and go again, and hopefully get that European place, and then come at it again for next season with the European place in our back pocket.
Yeah, they could almost, you've Drogheda coming up and Pats and but you could almost block this off as a little mini league. Like, if they think about it, like there's X amount of games left. Let's treat this as a mini league. We start against Drogheda. Is it Drogheda next? Sorry, in 2 weeks, and you just they've obviously got a set amount of points they want for every couple of games, whatever way it works. But let's just treat this as a mini league. We need X amount of points from it to guarantee whatever we need to guarantee, whatever our goal was at the start of the season. And yeah, like Tom's right, let's get it home, get fans at home and get that game, because you have 2 on the bounce now. And unfortunately, we'll have no cup interference, which is unfortunate. But it's just concentrate on the league now, I suppose. At least it's all other distractions out of the way.
Gally, do you think if you were coming out of this, you need to galvanise the players together? We've seen some real, cracking games sometimes in the Louth Derby. For ourselves in particular, a home in Oriel, you're going to have that atmosphere. Tom's just mentioned it there. There's the last 6 games, only one of them at home, which was the Shells match. Fans are going to be hurting seeing the results of late, are going to want to get in behind this team. They're going to want to, drag them over the line if they have to. With the atmosphere, it's possibly kind of set up so well, because for me, if I was Skip, I'd be like they're going to come in here, lads, with all the expectations behind us, willing us on. They do not want to lose a Louth Derby. I don't want to lose a Louth Derby. Like you say, we draw a line under everything that's just happened here. Let's go from here. If we go like we're going from here, bear in mind that we still have to play Pats as well. So we have destiny in our own hand. Yeah. So let's really go with this. And if you kick this off with a cracking atmosphere and a win in the Louth Derby, that can kind of springboard you again and give you that little boost. And then imagine after that you start getting some players back from injury. Yeah. It could be massive, like.
Yeah, like you've got 6 games left. You've 4 of them at home. I mean, 4 of the next 5. It's just the complete opposite of what Tom was saying. Just we've had 5 of the last 6, whatever it was, away from home. Now we've got the flip side of that, so let's take complete advantage of it. The Sligo game, we've got them cut points back, and they go to UCD. That must have been absolutely kicking. Last Friday night must have been unbelievable. The atmosphere, the lack of atmosphere after the game on the way home must have been just shocking. To get those 3 points back, and then to go out again, just be flat against UCD must have been an absolute kick in the teeth. But that's what they're looking for. I mean, you're looking for that roar in Oriel Park, the home game. Unfortunately, I think I remember saying this before, you can't get a better game than draw than we're in an absolute nail. But at Oriel Park, full house, when we need it, the Dundalk season starts now. I mean, it really does. I mean, they've got the next couple of games to try and pick up maximum points. When you're looking at the matches, you have Derry last game of the season as well in Derry. I mean, if you can get a run going, you've got an out of form Bows coming up as well. So, draw the Pats.
Is that the way, man?
We have Finn Harps away and Derry away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like we could sit here and say Finn Harps, 3 points. That's not, them days are gone. But yeah, or Oriel Park, 30th of September. That's going to be a massive. That's technically a cup final to kickstart a mini league there. I think over 6 games and see what we can grab out of it. I mean, just looking at the fixtures, you'd be looking to grab. I mean, you're definitely looking at 3 or 4 wins. That's what you've got to be looking at.
You got to aim for that.
Oh, absolutely, minimum. I mean, you can afford a draw against Derry in the last game of the season, maybe, provided the results go okay for you. But you got to hit the ground running, and a good win. I know we take a 1-0 last minute. We take it absolutely. But I mean, if you can get off to a good start, it's a good game. It sets it up nicely for them going forward. And, it's a 2-week wait, but look, maybe it's the best thing for them. 2 weeks of training, get the head right, and go at it. Now, it's 6 games, it's nothing. I mean, from what they've been through the start of the season, and yeah, we're probably higher up than what people expected. And we started probably at the start of the league, we're unbeaten at home, as Tom was saying. So, let's give the fans something after the last couple of weeks. Let's give them a couple of home games there on the bounce to kind of get the mojo back, I suppose.
Tom, I suppose let me set it up then. We're after having this run. Skip clears the decks and says, anyone who wants to play here next year is looking for a contract. You've got 6 games to show for me. Here's the Loud Derby. Lads are going to really experience in a cracking atmosphere. Some of the new guys that's come in, like Bo or Drugs, at the same time, probably looking over their shoulders going, I don't think we're going to be caught here in a relegation battle. Are they going to be as committed, considering we have something dangling there in front of us, and that's European football? Could that be a little bit extra to get us over the line? Or am I clutching?
No, I like the way that question ended, because I thought you were going to say, right, Skip clears the decks. How do you line out the start 11 for the Live Derby? I was going to go, right, listen, no. I'm going to pass on that one. No, look, I'll leave that to people who are far more knowledgeable than me in this area. Look, you can never say, no matter how, when Dundalk and Drogheda were operating on different planes over the years, when Dundalk were the team in the ascendancy in the league, or even going back before that, when obviously that great Drogheda side back in the mid 2000s, whenever there were differences between the two sides, you always had good derbies. I think, even though of the league this year, I mean, look, Drogheda's obviously just, they're going to be, I won't say happy with consolidating a place, but I mean, they're not involved in the rest of the scrap this year. So, I mean, that has to be a good building block to move forward for them. Again, is that going to help Dundalk? Probably not, because no Drogheda fan wants to come up to Oriel and be defeated. No Drogheda fan wants to go back down the M1 and think that their team hasn't given 100%. The same way as when we go to Headingham Park, and it's been tough to stomach some of the defeats over the last, they've been, like you've mentioned, they haven't been the 3-0 victories. They've been that slippy 1-0 victory, or 1-0 victory to Drogheda, had been slippy 1-0 defeats to Dundalk, and you're coming up and you're going, there was nothing in that, but you're coming up the road disappointed because you didn't take home the 3 points. It's same. So I think, irrespective of the fact that maybe Drogheda aren't pushing for anything, I still think they're going to give everything. And look, we saw, I don't know if you guys were watching the Shamrock Rovers Cup tie, but I mean, there was very little separating those sides on the day. Mm-hmm. So I mean, Drogheda, like pretty much any team, like we can't sit here and talk about Dundalk being able to take 3 points. Like you said, Gally, like, years ago, you might be thinking, right, Finn Harps, there's 3 points. I hope now. No. We played last week, or Dundalk played last week, and we're beaten by the bottom side UCD. Like, there's no gimmies in this league whatsoever. And, we've all watched enough football this year to know that that's not just a throwing out there. Like, the league is probably, one of the tightest leagues in terms of anybody on the day can beat, can give anybody a really, really good game. And that's why the next 6 games, the importance for me of Dundalk being at home and protecting that home record is going to be crucial. I think wouldn't it be great if we, if we saw Dundalk put together a run, like you said, Gally, a nice 6-game run whereby took advantage of that home form, ended the season on a high, and then could look forward to next season and by ending the game on a positive, rather than looking at it, kind of in the position we're in now, where we're nearly looking, going, right, where is this win going to come from? I'd be looking at, look, the win is going to come from a home game. We have a plethora of home games coming up, and it's a matter of just keeping faith with what's there and trusting that it will, it will turn. There's players going to come back from injury. You're going to have players coming back. That this break is going to be a good thing in a way, because it is a circuit breaker, but it's also allowing players to come back from injury. I mean, hopefully Paul Doyle's injury won't be too bad. Hopefully Daniel Kelly and Pat Hoopin will be somewhat available for the next, for that run in. And will they add to the side? Absolutely. So I would be looking, it's hard to sit here and say, following a defeat tonight and a defeat last week, but I'd be sitting here and looking, it'd be great to be sitting here in a couple of weeks' time, having picked up those home wins and going, do you know what? We didn't overreact. We said, yeah, we went through a blip. Every team goes through a blip. Use the 2 weeks, like you said, Gally, not to take time off, but to recharge and look at it again and go, right, listen, let's put this 6-game, have your mini league, come out the other side in a positive mindset. So, strange way, but I'm looking forward to this, seeing how the next 6 games go, through a matter of, with an eye to players, like you say, putting their hands up to next year and saying, right, pick me. I want to be here next year. And rather than being overly despondent, I think we have to take a long-term view on this. Like,
yeah, look, and I think that's it. That's it exactly. I think a lot of it's a tough one that we're probably going to say that a lot of this season. You think of the season as what are we 30, 36 games? It's a long season, but actually, it's now going to boil down to these last 6.
Yeah.
And it's a strange one because last year we were kind of we nearly wanted the season to end at one stage because there was always that chance that we were going to get sucked back down to the wrong end. Then a mad flip came around and we got this home record kind of kicked off and the crowds came back and suddenly we had an outside chance at Europe. Then that disappeared and it was a weird season. At the moment, we're pretty inconsistent, but Gally, like we've had a good run before this and we put ourselves in a place where we have a chance of European football. It all comes down to this now. It's great because I think we always said that it'd be a waste. You don't want to be going into this business end of the season with nothing to play for. Okay, there's the FAI Cup. I know it's ended tonight, and we've had such great affinity with the FAI Cup and finals in the Aviva, over the past recent years. But we've something massive still to play for here. Let's hope it doesn't go all the way down to the last game of the season away to Derry because we could have a few former players there who might have a say in how that goes, but to still have a shot at Europe, like Tom just said, that's what you want. You want to have something to play for right now.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we would have loved to go on to the Aviva for a cup final, but I mean, like I said at the start of the season, I would trade a cup final if we could do better in the league. So like your league's your bread and butter at the end of the year. At the end of the day, like if you could finish second, third in the league, that's your standing for next season. Like players don't sign for cup teams. It's next season. I would sign for the team to finish second in the league, third in the league. I want to sign for them to go European football. You'll get that with the cup, but they won't. Like I said, if you're brave, won the cup. Like it's not like the cup's great and it's a great day out, but your league's your bread and butter. You got to get your league sewn up and where you're going to be. The cup's a bonus. It would have been brilliant to be there, but yeah, these last 6 games. Oh God, I really hope, like you said, I hope you haven't jinxed it coming down to Derry at the last game of the season. That's not what you want at all. Then again, I'd rather that than go to UCD in the last game of the season. Look, it's great for the neutral if we come down to something like that. But I think, just look at the fixture. I think if they get to, like we were saying with Tom, if they get those 2 weeks off and get it right, you won't be comfortable. But I mean, you could get a couple of runs together. You 4 games out of 6 at Oriel Park. I mean, just pie in the sky, just talking. If you got your full set of points there, I mean, not that you can afford to slip up against you, but you've got them in the bank, and you can run the rest or bonus after that. But yeah, they just have to treat this like, a 6. I suppose like a cup final that's 6 games. It's like a mini league is the best way we can describe it. They got to go for it now, and this is where really finds out who really wants to go out and grab that straw for Europe. They're more than capable of it, especially with the start they had at the start of the season. Like Tom was saying, we're still unbeaten at home. You'd like to go now the full season. Did Stephen Kenny go unbeaten at home? I might have went one season, did he? I'm not even sure.
Tom has to know that answer. I think there was one defeat in there, Tom, am I right?
Don't put him on the pressure
now. Go back to what season?
Oh, it would have been
his second.
There was a season we lost 4,000 goals. We lost 2-1 to goals. That was the only defeat of the season. I can't. It's a 15 or 17. Can't remember. I remember that defeat 2-1 to Bows. This is why you need to ask me these questions before we go on, and I can look them up and all that. I'm sitting. The only notes I have in front of me are this week's and last week's. I haven't got my detailed stats in front of me. My computer's broke. Hence the reason I'm in the dark, both literally and figuratively. I even went blank there. even going blank on it was only Tony Martin reminded me there of the Bows game was our 3rd away victory. I was commentating on the game. At this stage, that shows how tired I am tonight, guys.
But yeah, look, it's down to, like, if to go unbeaten in the season, it's great. I mean, look, you know, you'll get better every week at home. You can finish third. But I mean, look, it's a great way to, it'd be a great way to kind of finish the season. But I mean, like I said earlier on, now the season really kicks into gear. Now we've got these 6 games, and they're massive. They're absolutely massive. And like, you know, your local rivals, better way to start in Oriel Park in 2 weeks. But they just have to get that one win. That a good win against Drogheda. Like, yeah, look, we would take a 1-0 off someone's arse at the last minute. But I mean, a good, strong, solid performance against Drogheda, because we were due one. And just to kickstart that, like, it's only, you're talking, what are we talking? The first week in November, it's all over. Last week, around Halloween, is it? It's no time at all. It really had, like, the season's flown in.
Yeah.
Like, I know people listening to our podcast every week think it drags, but the season has flown in.
Look, I think Frank Harlan made some good points there. You know, with the Strogs game, let's make it a full house, get the shed bouncing, get in behind the team. If the team's morale, is probably on the floor, we call every supporter to get up to Oriel. The club's eating out for a push. Let's fill the ground, sell it out, no excuse. Like, imagine bouncing Oriel Park for that. Imagine, ticket sales flying before that. The bounce that's going to give the players. That's what we need. That might just
even get there early, get there extra early if you can, for the warm-ups, even things like that, get them out, because they'll be out there for 6 hours warming up before the game starts. So, like, you can get there early and, not the 7:30. I know people work on that, but if you can get up a little bit earlier, just to get that atmosphere, because it's the start of a cup final set of games. That's really what we're talking about here. Look, it's going to be it's a great way to start, provided it goes well, obviously. But it's a cup game, Loud Derby. Fantastic.
Yeah. On this sense of optimism, gentlemen, I think we'll wrap it up tonight. Thank you, Tom, for jumping in tonight. As always, you're in the dark. You have plenty of knowledge for us. We always appreciate you coming on.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Nice to chat to you again, Chris, and Gary. Thanks a million for having me on.
Not at all. Gally, have you a way for us to end tonight?
Well, we'd have to go with the Garbrooks and the season we're having, and the running that we're going to get. It's almost like what we're battling. So I'll have to go with ain't going down till the sun comes up.